Hello children all over the place, welcome to Watch with Mother. This is our storybook. Are you listening comfortably? Good, then I'll begin. Once or twice in the iron days of ancient Britain there lived a lot of ironmongers who all lived together in a big round house with their livestock in Dorchester. Or was it the Savoy? You choose. Golly, we're lucky, said the ironmongers, to have a roof over our heads. Then the Romans visited Britain and built lots of Roman roads so that everybody lived near the M1, and the hoi polloi shouted,
Gosh, siamo fortunati to have a tetto over our testes.
Then in 1113, Stephen of Blois invented a civil war, and all the cannon fodder ended up with nothing but a haystack to put over their heads, all because of a right royal punch-up. So Steve's son Henry de Blois said in 1133, we will put all our poor and distressed people who haven't got a roof to rub together in my first ever charitable institution, and it shall be called an almshouse. Thus, near Windychester, was built the Hospital of St. Cross on the first ever Red Nose Day, which was celebrated on the Feast of St. Nostril. Henry de Blah Blah and his charitable authoritarians explained, you poor working people are allowed to live in this public social housing for as long as you live, but remember, you have no hope of a future, and you shouldn't really exist at all. Never forget that you are a pest, but if you behave yourselves, we will be permitting you to end your lives under the roofs we generously building for you. Now, children, if you don't know what a pest looks like, ask a parent, guardian or carer to draw you a picture of a bedbug or a rat or a Tory party canvasser. Well, those authoritarian charioteers could not have been more wronger, for gradually hand jobs suddenly turned into machine tools, and the industrialised revolution exploded, and people had sustained growths all over the place. And before you could say Friedrich Engels, masses of ordinary people broke out into economic growths that had never before seen the light of day. If you don't know what an economic growth looks like, ask a P, G or C to draw you a picture of Jonathan Harmsworth, who for the purposes of tax is French, 4th Viscount Rothermere, chairman of the Daily Mail, who pays no tax in the UK on his £1 billion fortune allegedly, but is a close bosom buddy of Davy the Cameroon. But what was to be done with the multiplying working types, for they lived in squalor and sickness and were being immoral all over the place. Lo and behold, in the 19th centipede, rich philanthropicals built beautiful tenement blocks, and nicer factory owners built entire villages made out of chocolate in Bourneville, soap in Port Sunlight, and wool in Saltaire. These working workers whistled and smiled all the way to work.
We are most terribly grateful,
they said,
for now we have caps to doff and little homes to snore in. Where once we had 2 locks, we now have 4 locks that we can tug. When once we were drunk, we are now sober, because you haven't builded us no pubs, no fish shops, no pubs.
They mumbled ungratefully. Then nearly 100-fold later, in 1885, the public outcried, enough of this philanthropicating, we all want proper houses to live in. Well, do you know what happened, children? Local councils actually made local flats and local houses for the local locals. But then in 1914, the Saxon Duke boys started a punch-up with the woefully weak and sickly Bretonians, whose army recruits were small, tired, poor, and living in cardboard boxes near Topshop on the Strand. However, the score stood at
Bretonians 1, Saxon Duke boys 0.
So, whoopee-doo, in 1919, they pulled down those cardboard boxes and builded homes fit for heroes. And if you don't believe me when I say that the upper and classicals builded houses for the lower underbellies so that they might grow big and strong, ready for the next punch-up, then you know what you can do. Then in 1939, the Saxon Duke boys started another punch-up. I told you. And they flattened, destroyed and damaged 4 million new and old builded Bretonian homes. However, the final score was...
Bretonians 2, Saxon Duke boys 0.
Whilst peace reigned all over the place, building started again. 1, 2 and 3 bedroom semi-detached council houses were invented with private indoor places. And before you could say Anaya and Bovril, workers, doctors, vicars and teachers were living cheek by jowl in ever so sociable social housing with gardens. But dark clouds loomed, and in time it passed. Sociable houses became unsociable. They crumbled, and everything caught urban blight. So the famous sub-prime ministers Tony B and Maggie T sold off the housing stock, making council houses as rare as rocking horse doo-doos. Now, was all the money that was made from selling houses used to build new houses for homes for heroes? Well, what do you think? You know, 300 years ago, sailors planned their course around the world using a pocket calculator called an astrolabia.
Wrong.
Astrolabe. But in 2013, we still can't provide a house for everyone. Oh gosh, I'm sounding like a Groucho Marxist. Heaven forfend. Now, we have an epilogue to our tale, for Davy the Cameroon and Nicholas Clegover have written an almost unbelievable, fantastical bedtime story. And it came about that there were 402 MPs. Let's call them miserly pignuts, beastly ogres who thought that spare bedrooms were a waste of space.
Make 'em pay,
roared the ogres.
1 bedroom per pest or partnered pests. Chuck out the weedies and the oldies. But some have lived in their hovels for a lifetime,
cried the bishops.
You are hammering the vulnerables. Ow, squeeze up till the bits squeak,
roared the ogres.
Pests can no longer expect something for nothing. It's not fair. Remember, we are 402 miserly pignuts that cannot be slain. Don't be too sure,
murmured the vulnerables.
We may just come a-nipping and a-snapping at your underparts.
Now, should this full frontal assault on the vulnerable underbellies by Davy, Nicholas and the pest exterminators be resisted? Or is it an immutable law of nature? It's a very good question, and one that deserves an answer, which we'll read about next time. But all this pillow talk has made me sleepy and just a little bit drained. Are you tired of it all? Thought so. Night, night, children, everywhere.
No, that's good. That's good. But you know the bits where you're supposed to be sort of talking off the top of your head, the asides to camera. Well, where it says P, C, or G, you're not to read that. You're supposed to say parents, carers, or guardian. It was an abbreviation, sort of, to save me having... Oh, for God's sake, don't... Oh, somebody get her a tissue.